everybody? My name is Alex. I am the co-founder and COO here at Swolverine. I'm also your host here at the Swole Friends podcast, as well as the head performance coach with the Swole Kitchen Nutrition Coaching. Here at Swolverine, we're an endurance athlete and active lifestyle brand that provides the nutrients you need to power your performance and active lifestyle. Here on the Swole Friends podcast, I'd like to sit down with athletes, influencers, business owners, our friends out in the space that we've come to know here over the last 4 years of business. And today I'm honored to welcome on the podcast Jamie Simmonds, formerly known as Jamie Green. Jamie, good morning to you, or good evening, actually, where you're at.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
In case you guys don't know, if you're not familiar with Jamie, Jamie is a 5 times CrossFit Games athlete. She is a Kiwi. She's an incredible woman. She's an incredible athlete. And today you're going to get to know her a little bit more one-on-one, some of the things that have shaped her as, you know, the woman and athlete she is. And so that you can walk away from today being inspired, have someone new to follow on Instagram, and have someone to just kind of remind you of that motivator and why you do what you do in your personal life, right? So Jamie, let's kind of just hop in. I mean, tell me a little bit more about, you know, where did your athletic journey begin? We all kind of know you as the CrossFit Games athlete, this, you know, shining bright light in the CrossFit space. But where did that start? And did that start with sports when you were a kid?
Yeah, so it seems like forever ago now. But yeah, as a kid growing up in New Zealand, obviously you try just about every sport. Rugby is a big one in New Zealand. So I played that from when I was about 8 to I was about 22. So a long time. I did gymnastics, basketball, cricket, most sports, running, athletics. Gave everything a go. There's not that much else to do in New Zealand, but sports is a big thing. So my parents were very helpful in that, and like they gave us the opportunity to do whatever. So started off there, and then after gymnastics, that took up a lot of time growing up. So after that, I had a bit of spare time, and my mum actually signed me up gave it to me for a present, a CrossFit class. CrossFit, it was more like a 6-week women's program. Mm-hmm. And so I went along and went to do that, and they were actually like, oh, do you want to just do the normal classes? And I thought, oh, why not? I'll give it a go. And yeah, from there I tried my first CrossFit class of overhead squats and pull-ups, I think it was. Couldn't do the overhead squats. Pull-ups was easy, gymnastics was fine, but anything lifting was such a challenge. So I think that's what kept me coming back, because it was something new and something I hadn't done before that was actually really difficult. So from there, just carried on.
I like that. And so how old were you when you dropped into, or you got that gift from your mom?
I think I was probably about 21, 22 maybe. So I crossed over a little bit with rugby. So it was kind of like I just did that for conditioning and fitness while I was playing rugby. I found it didn't go along together that well, because CrossFit would sort of wear me out so much that I'd get to the rugby field and I'd get hit by someone and just couldn't take it. So I got quite a few injuries doing both. Mm-hmm. So I think I did that for about a year and a half, 2 years maybe. And then from there, I was like, right, I want to give this CrossFit thing a proper go. And sort of went from doing just classes to doing a bit more outside the classes, and then ended up qualifying for regionals.
Yeah, that's really exciting. And it's nice to kind of have that challenge, right? And you can still have like that athletic mindset, but just a completely different environment.
Yeah, it was just sort of putting it, like I always played sports my whole life, and I was like, oh, I need something to fill that. And the crossover was perfect. And yeah, everyone knows you can get competitive even in just like a casual CrossFit class.
Right. Saturday morning.
Yeah, the classic.
You ever miss like kind of hitting the shit out of somebody from rugby?
Maybe, but I don't know if I could take it back now. So you got to remember that if you're going to try hit someone hard, they're going to come back at you. And maybe I'd try the first part, but I don't know if I could take it anymore. Got a bit soft.
I mean, it's intense. Rugby's intense.
Yeah. So fun though. Still one of my favorite sports.
Do you ever play now?
No, I haven't played for a very long time. I'd try touch, but yeah, I don't think these joints or anything could take it now. But touch rugby, I love that, because there's obviously a lot more fitness involved and a bit more skill. Mm-hmm. But I'm always watching it, so I like supporting.
Yeah, absolutely. So you watch quite a bit, maybe in your free time, I would assume.
Yeah. We're I obviously follow the All Blacks and any New Zealand teams, but we're on the other side of the world, so sometimes it's not the best times, but we find it, Saturday morning, get up, watch it in the morning, and then carry on to the gym. No, it's
Not up
nice.
at 4 a.m. watching rugby games.
Yeah, keen.
Do you feel like you kind of learned about overtraining pretty early in your athletic career? I mean, you mentioned, injuries, and you mentioned, the cross back and forth between the two sports. How did you, when you decided that, okay, the injuries aren't worth it, I don't have the energy, what did you do to shift that into your focus? Because I think, whether someone's new to CrossFit or just new to sports in general, or even in high school, and they're like, well, I want to play this in college, but I really like these two other sports. How did you find that prioritization and commitment to CrossFit?
Yeah, so it's funny you say that. I did think I'm only just learned it. No, it was one of those things that, it's literally like you do these different sports, and in your mind you're thinking, oh, I do CrossFit, but then I do something else. So this is kind of like a rest from this. So in your mind, you're like, oh no, it's different. My body's getting a break, but it's not. You've still got the same stresses. Then injuries start to rise. But like I go through waves. Like you get like a goal in your mind. You want to compete, at the games or regionals, whatever it is. And sometimes people, if you're really driven, you forget about that overtraining. And sometimes you have to bring yourself back to remind you, look, sometimes a step back will actually jump you forward. But I know I've been in that place where I'm like, I just want to get there. I want to work as hard as I can. And sometimes that's when the overtraining comes in. So I am still learning. Had enough injuries to try teach me. But yeah, now I think, now that I'm older, I've learned that my body can't just keep going. And sometimes you've got to use your brain more than just your body. So yeah, it's something that takes time, but the more you hear it from people as well, I think that helps too.
Totally. When it gets kind of old, getting hurt, right?
Yeah.
Like after a while, you're like, I really don't like doing this.
Yeah. You're like, I've done this enough. I don't need to wait another year because of an injury or, definitely. You'd hope you learn.
Yeah, right. I mean, I crashed my mountain bike the other day and I'm like,
really?
And I'm like, man, I don't like this.
Yeah. It's not much you can do about that though. That's just unlucky.
How do you feel like you handle stress, and what are some of the ways? I mean, you mentioned stress, right? And stress creates inflammation, and it can like exacerbate injury or set you up just like not exactly for a training day that you want to have. Do you feel like that's something you've come to learn or are still learning on your own? Or do you have, is that something a really big topic of conversation with your coach or your teammates, or what has that looked like for you?
Yeah, so stress is a funny one because obviously I think stress is probably one of the worst things you can do to yourself, but easier said than done to get rid of it, right?
Totally.
A lot of people think like, look at me and like, oh, you're really laid back, Kiwis are pretty chilled, and I am, but then you go through moments where you have like, especially with injuries and stuff, or you put pressure on yourself that people expect things from you, and then that's when the stress rises. I think it's just like, you've got to it comes down to sort of finding what works best for you. Because, like people say, you get people saying all the time, oh, just don't stress, just relax. I think if you can find a system that you can follow that keeps you sort of in your own mind space, in your own headspace, keeping away from, I know a lot of people find social media and stuff stresses them out. If you can keep in your own headspace to head down work, the stress will sort of come back from you there. But no, I totally get it. It's such a hard one because people can say, oh, just, don't stress. And it doesn't work like that. I think if you try to eliminate the things that you don't enjoy in day-to-day life, then that's going to take a lot of the stress away from it. Or it's try like get yourself rid of people that bring that stress on you in a bad way.
Totally. And that's an interesting thing because that can come from family members, that can come from friends, that can come from your gym community. And toxic people are toxic people. It can come from followers on social media, right? And you don't have to subject yourself to these people. And there's kind of this concept of, and I'm sure you understand that having such a large social media following is like not confusing accessibility with availability, right? Like just because you can access me on social media, whether this is your family or something otherwise, doesn't mean that I'm available to you. Doesn't mean whether it's my time or emotionally, and creating those healthy boundaries.
Yeah. And I think to
Go ahead.
let people know that, so that then they understand, because some people don't even understand they're putting that pressure or stress on you. But if you're
Mhm.
clear and, talk to the people around you and, maybe the people on social media, then that stress won't be thrown at you so much, hopefully.
Yeah. Do you find that through your athletic season, your stress rises or reduces through certain times, and how so?
Yeah, definitely. And normally it's like that last minute when you're in the kitchen and you drop your breakfast and you start crying or whatever, and you're like, okay, now I see I'm stressed. Takes it to that last moment. Definitely. And I think sometimes, well, for me personally, I find like in the middle of comp season, you're putting all this pressure on yourself to perform a certain way, that sometimes you just need to get out of the gym, talk to someone who doesn't talk to you about CrossFit, or maybe knows you for a different reason. And that almost brings you back down to earth and sort of settles everything. And it's like, okay, it's not, the only thing in the world. You can get into the gym and put your head there when you need to, but outside of the gym, just try relax, live your life. And I feel, for me personally, that sort of relaxes me a lot and helps in those stressful times.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
and being an athlete, you still have to have a work-life balance, right?
Mm,
Being an athlete is
100%.
your work, it is your profession, and
Yeah.
then you gotta have that balance outside of that. So, what do you like to do outside of the gym? I mean, I'm sure you're in the gym quite a bit. So when
Yeah.
you're stepping out, what do you do? Where do you I think you like to travel, just kind of basing
Yeah.
that. Where
Yeah. I think I love the beach, and I've moved to somewhere where it's cold, and there is a beach, but I like the beach to go when it's warm and it's sunny. So I think we travel quite, like me and my husband Elliot travel quite a bit, but that's more, I think, because we know a lot of people around the world and we like to go see friends. We can also train wherever we are. But yeah, I definitely like anything like going to the beach. I haven't done it for years, mountain biking, things like that. Even
Mhm.
just like trail running, getting outside. Yeah, just anything sort of like that. And to be honest, outside the gym as well, in season, I like just chilling out, watching TV, hanging out with people. But yeah, that's mostly it. But I would live at a beach or a pool if I could.
I like that.
Yeah.
So traveling for competitions, do you have kind of any like tips or tricks or secrets that you've found within yourself that make traveling easy, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So sometimes I think I've nailed it. It's a nightmare. Sometimes I think it's been terrible and it's perfect. So, take it with a pinch of salt. But we always try to like look ahead on the time zone that we're going to, and you want to slowly almost get into that. So when I travel back to New Zealand, it's almost, you try, it also depends what time you fly.
Mhm.
So we used to fly sometimes from Abu Dhabi, like an overnight flight. So you leave at 2 a.m. and get to the UK at 7 a.m. So it's like you have to sleep that whole flight and you wake up in the morning and you're at wherever you're going. So, but then other times we'd travel through the day and that's a bit easier, and then you get there and go to bed. So I think if you look at what time you're traveling and then work back from there, but anything from like working out the time zone, when you're on the plane, if you need to sleep, take a couple melatonin, sleep as much as you can. If you need to stay awake, take good snacks. um, Otherwise, just when you get there, it's like get outside early in the morning, make sure you move your body, eat at the right times. So like even if you're not hungry and it's 9 a.m. or 8 a.m. it's breakfast time, try get the meals in. Um, but yeah, just little things like that I find help a lot, especially traveling home to New Zealand. Sometimes like that's from here, it's like 26 or 30 hours. So
Mhm.
by the time you actually get home, you don't have no idea where you are, but you want, like last time we only went home for about 10 days. So you don't want to waste any of those days jet lagged. So I think if you can get that right and just sort of try get into a routine of how you normally live your life, then you're good to go.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
like that. And where are you based currently for our listeners?
So we are currently living in Cardiff in Wales, in the
Okay.
UK.
And how long have you been there? Because I know you mentioned Dubai.
Uh, we moved we
Maybe.
moved here February 2021. So about a year and a half ago.
Yeah. You like it?
Yeah, it's a big change. I loved the weather in Abu Dhabi, the heat.
Mhm.
But Cardiff is a lot like where I'm from in New Zealand, like cold, um, like a uni sort of town. Yeah, it's very similar. And I find the Brits are quite similar to Kiwis.
That's
Yeah.
fair.
It's good. I do just miss the sun sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But do you go home very often and see your family?
Normally like once every 2 years.
Okay.
But this year, because of CrossFit, I went back twice in 1 year.
Oh,
I wouldn't recommend that most times because it was a very long both times was a very long trip.
yeah.
I'm so lucky that I can do that. So I normally get home once every 2 years, but then my parents will come out and they'll come to the games or they'll come visit, halfway in Abu Dhabi or Dubai. So we're pretty lucky at getting around the world like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then they do come visit you, right? And like, do you make that time? I think that
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
not
like,
a
it's
prioritize.
nice that they get to come, and I like it that they come see me here as well because I can go home and everything's the same, but when they come out here, they sort of know where I'm living and know who I'm hanging out with, and, they love to see everyone, and it's so nice having them come into my life as well.
That's super rad. And
Yeah.
how old are you? You're 29? Yeah?
31.
31? Oh god.
Yeah. No, I wish I was still 29. I
Right?
feel like I'm 29.
Way to insult me. Thank you.
Yeah.
31. Do you feel like your 30s are kind of starting off better than like your 20s were, or did you have
Yeah, I don't know. People always say things like that. I feel the same as I did when I was well, maybe not my body, but like everything else is in my 20s. I don't know. I don't really take age as too much of a thing. I think that's because living in the Middle East for so long, people like you don't even know how old people are. So people, especially like expats and stuff, they'll come over. Some come when they're like 18, some come when they're 35, and everyone sort of just hangs out together. It's not one of those things that's like, oh, how old are you? So I think just living in that for 7 years, it was just like, oh, whatever age you are, do what you got to do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. I like that a lot.
yeah.
Rumor has it you have a candy obsession. Is that like still a thing or
Yeah, yeah, always will be. Still looking for, I've said I would love it if Hubba Bubba or something, got a sponsor to do that. Yeah, I could live with that, bubble gum, but no, I am a big fan.
Okay. What are some of your go-tos there?
Oh, I like the sour lollies, bubble gum, lollipops. We probably call them different names because in New Zealand, I come over here and say something and they're like, "They're not even called that." In New Zealand, they are. But yeah, I still claim that New Zealand has like you go to your local dairy or whatever, like a corner shop, and they
Uh-huh.
have the best lollies in the world. I still think.
Okay. Pro tip, everyone. Go
Yeah,
to
yeah.
lolly.
Lollies, candy, whatever.
That's great.
Yeah,
Speaking of nutrition, so
yeah.
let's kind of dig into that. What does that look like? How does that change throughout the year versus like the season? Obviously, you bridge in those things like sweet treats and being pretty glycogen adapted or carb adapted. Most likely, that's going to fuel your performance anyways. But what does that look like on a daily basis? And how often do you drop your breakfast in the kitchen and have a meltdown?
That happens often, the whole breakfast thing. No, not so much now. I feel like now that I'm 31, I've now worked that
Oh,
out. That
yes,
was
yes.
when I was 29.
Why
Um,
is that?
no. So yeah, nutrition, like for me, is sometimes hit or miss. So I know when I'm in season, I really need to focus on making sure I eat enough because I've been known to just eat when I feel like eating. And quite often when you're an athlete, you need to, like, you've been training all day, you don't really feel like eating, but you need to, because that's when, your injuries come on, you get run down, stressed. So I think now that I'm knuckled down in Cardiff, that we actually get like meal prep from a company here. So that helps with like lunch and dinner. But then it's just snacking around that. But we just try follow similar to sort of like, the vertical diet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like mince and rice, salmon and rice, steak and rice for meals.
Mm-hmm.
Few eggs and stuff in the morning. I'm a big crumpet fan, bagels. But yeah, just sort of that structure and then a lot of snacking throughout the day. And then in season, yeah, just trying to get as many carbs in as I can. And the lollies definitely help. But yeah, and then when I'm out of season, I just sort of go by how I feel. If training's still really high, then I'll still sort of track it. But
Mhm.
otherwise, like when I go home to New Zealand, I'll just eat the treats that I want to or not want to. But then I do find it hard to kind of get back into it and make sure I'm eating enough when I get back. So it's something that you kind of need to watch.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm just a big fan of sort of going by how you feel. And I think they'll be good when I finish CrossFit, but just not quite yet.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Are there any foods you don't eat or like snacks that you're like, "Nah, I don't like that?"
Not too bad. I think I eat most things. I do miss, like, in season, I'm a big fan of beer. I don't know if that's a Kiwi thing as well, but beer and red wine. But in season, I try, keep away from it. Maybe on odd occasion, I'll have a wine or whatever, but more so just try to keep my head down and make sure I eat food instead of
Right.
drinking.
Not fuel inflammation.
Yeah, exactly. I'm learning.
So what's your go-to beer? What's your type? What do you like?
I like IPAs mostly. There's obviously a few brands at home, and actually Cardiff has, like, I think maybe quite a few local breweries that do really good beers here. So that was hard when I moved here, but yeah, and sometimes they'll send me them, like, like the party boxes or whatever. They'll send them. I'm like, well, this is going to last me ages because I'm not allowed to drink it at the moment. But yeah, there's lots of local breweries here that do really good IPAs, or like the sort of like fruity sour ones. I'm a big fan of them.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like that's not very common. Though you like sours and like IPAs.
Yeah,
Right?
I both. I just like the different ones compared to, like, I'm not the biggest fan of lagers.
Yeah.
Things like that. Yeah.
Do you like high IBUs, like that really super hoppy taste, or are you, kind of like more mellow IPA?
Yeah, more mellow, I would say. Yeah.
Nice. Well, that's awesome. Well, for Passover Cross, I'll buy you a beer.
Yeah, I'd love that. I'd love that.
Well, take in one hand, beer in the other.
Yeah, there we go. Balance. Perfect.
As far as training goes, you've gone team and you've gone Indi, right?
Yeah.
What do you like better? And what kind of sets them apart for you?
I like both. I don't think there's one I like better. They're just so different. It's like doing a team sport compared to individual sport, it's just completely different. I really like the team aspect, that there's a lot more like, not tactics, but like you've got to think about everything a lot more. And especially now that they're programming workouts where you've got it really makes a difference, who you put in together, how you do something. I think that makes it really fun because there's that extra aspect, not just like go in and go for it, like your fitness. But whereas individual, you've got this own pressure on yourself. And I really enjoy that. Like, people say they hate that feeling of nerves or butterflies. Like, I enjoy that. So when you get in there on your own, you've got to do that. I love that individual part of it, and that you don't have to really stress about anyone else. But then again, in a team, you get nervous because you don't want to let anyone else down either. So I don't know. I like both of them, and I think it's good to do a bit of both, because then being on a team, almost you push hard for your team, and that's going to make you a better individual as well. But then being on your own, you sort of understand what you're good at, what you're not so good at, and how that can help the team. So I like doing both together, I think.
Yeah. Well, and it kind of shows you strengths and weaknesses, right? Or just areas of development or areas where you can improve.
Yeah. 100%.
And testing that in like the different environments.
Yeah. And it's so good being in a team when you're like, oh, I can't lift that, but then your teammate can. Sweet. Go for it.
Yeah. You got that.
Yeah. You got that. I'll do this over here. Yeah. Always a good feeling.
What have been some of your favorite competitions you've done?
I always enjoy the Dubai one, DFC, because that's like, we always say it's like a home crowd because everyone comes up from Abu Dhabi. We know a lot of people in Dubai, and it's always like they throw you into anything. I love CrossFit competitions that aren't like, oh, we'll tell you all the workouts the week before. It's more like, we'll tell you what this is now. It's a new movement. Try do it. Like, I really enjoy that. So DFC is always fun. Wodapalooza, I've only actually done that on team, and that was really fun, obviously, because it's Wodapalooza. Bit of a party at the same time. Other ones, I do enjoy, like regionals can be a bit stressful, or like the semis and stuff. But the other one I really liked was down under a few years ago in Wollongong. And I think that was just because it's Australia, you're on the beach. So nice. Yeah.
Like your environment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But no, I don't think I've done a comp where I'm like, oh, I really didn't like that. So, yeah.
Have you done any like the head-to-heads for announcements with like?
No, I haven't. I think a few years back, they might have asked me to come over to one in the States or in France, maybe. But I was in Abu Dhabi then. And I think I was working, so I couldn't. So I would love to. That would be really fun.
All right. So anyone out there, if you're listening to this, you have some connections.
Yeah.
Let's get Jamie in there.
I'll go out really hard, I swear. I'm probably right.
She'll do so great. What have been some of your most memorable moments as an athlete? Whether that was standing on the podium or a specific workout, like where, if you can think back, did you have just that overwhelming feeling of like, just so immersed in the moment? This is life. This is it. This is like a pinnacle for me.
I think like competing on team back in 2016 when we got third, I
Mhm.
think finishing, I think even it might have been like the second last day, just like we were 6 people who like half of us were coaches, half of us were, well, a couple were teachers.
Mhm.
We went into the games thinking like, and even when we got there, we were like, oh my God, we're so small. We're not going to do very well against all these American teams. And then we were like, it was the last day where we ended up third. And I think it was that morning or whatever on the last day, we were like, right, we're right up here with everyone, didn't expect that. So I think that was very cool. And it wasn't like just me, it was the whole team. So I remember that. Also, yeah, coming like the final workout before I was on the podium at the games
Mhm.
in 2019. So I think that was at the end of the standard, the
Mhm.
workout. Finishing that because I that year at the games was just one of those years where like every niggle seemed to come up. When you finish a workout and you've got something in your foot or you've done something and the shoulder niggles back or whatever, and it was just like it got to the end of the weekend. I was like, I have nothing left in this body. So I think that was just like my body had nothing left, but I'd given it all I had, and then I ended up on the podium. So that was a pretty special moment as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's gotta be a good feeling, right? And
Yeah.
kinda showing yourself really that bridge between like the mind and the body, right? And
Yeah.
where the body will only go where the mind pushes it. And
Yeah.
you can train all year long, but if you're not really like putting yourself in those uncomfortable situations and you're not like demanding a lot out of your mind, you
Yeah.
don't really kind of know how far you can go, right?
Yeah. 100%. Because like the year before, 2018, like my body was probably in the best condition it ever had been. But my mind just wasn't. I got to the games and yeah, I gave it my all of what I had, but I think the lead up and stuff, it was all like a bit serious for me. Whereas like the year before that, my sister had come to the training camp and like we just muck around half the time. Well, like we'll train, but then we'll laugh and we'll muck around as well. And so I think then the year after that I was like, okay, I'm now like this games athlete. I need to be more serious and do this and that. And it just didn't work for me. So I think a lot of it as well is understanding yourself and how you can get the best out of you. Like for some people, it is being really serious and knuckling down, straight and narrow. Whereas for others, it might be you need that breakaway or you need someone to sort of lighten everything so you're still enjoying it. And that can be the best. And then you can give your best.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. When did Elliot come into the picture for you?
When did he?
Uh-huh.
Oh, very early on. He's been around a while. So when I moved to Abu Dhabi, him and Anthony, one of the other coaches, so we're actually business partners now, us three and my coach Indi. They were coaching at CrossFit Yes, and then I was actually doing home PT first in the Middle East,
Mhm.
and I used to just train at CrossFit Yes, and then met these 2 boys, and they were like, yeah, we need a female coach. So then I ended up coaching them there with them, and that's when I met Elliot, which would have been way back in 2014, so the end of the year, and yeah, ever since then, so a long time ago.
Did you guys have like a first date, or was it kind of like you were around each other for so long that
Yeah, our first date was probably in the gym. No, I think they took me up. They actually took me up to the Dubai competition for a few weekends. So I was new to Abu Dhabi, and they're like, "Right, we're doing this competition in Dubai if you want to come." And that was the Dubai Fitness Champs, and you competed that year with them. And yeah, maybe after that, it took me out, maybe out for a burger or something.
found out you
Something
like
romantic.
her? She likes fitness and beer. I love her.
Yeah. Perfect.
And then when did you guys get married?
So we got married 2020. So January 2020, before everything shut down. We were like perfect timing just before. Yeah, very lucky. Otherwise, we probably still wouldn't be married
Oh my gosh.
because I don't think I'd be organizing that again.
That's hard. Planning a wedding, planning that type of party is, I assume, very hard.
Yeah, that was I'm so Elliot is the organized one out of us two by like a country mile. And he was like, "No, this is your one job to do." So
Mhm.
stressful. That's when my stress came out.
Typically it's like, okay, the guy, all you need to do is show up.
Yeah.
Elliot's like,
It
"Do
actually
you
got
want
to
me
the point,
to
it was like the day before, and I was like, "We need to go." We just like found this quiet bar in Queenstown, sat there, and everything I hadn't planned, Elliot did. So it was like, he's like, "So where's the buses getting everyone from?" I don't know. Okay, we need to sort that. So it was literally, he finished it off.
I like it. And
Yeah,
that's like kind of, you pick up where the other person kind of leaves off, right? That's
exactly. It's how it
really
works. So I'm learning.
right.
Yeah.
So the pandemic, right? I mean,
Mm.
that's a big piece of everyone's lives.
Uh-huh.
Being an athlete, what are some of the challenges you ran into? Did you find yourself, questioning things? Did you find yourself kind of going anywhere mentally with it? Were you still able to train? Talk to us a little bit about that time in your life.
I think we were still in Abu Dhabi then, so I think we were pretty lucky. We lived like we had a pretty big house, and like there's just a lot more space over there. I had a big house, a backyard, and we also lived with our best friends,
Mhm.
Anthony and Sabine, and they have a daughter who's our goddaughter, Lucienne. So
Mhm.
like we weren't stuck at home bored or anything because we had the five of us. So it was always a good time.
Small party.
Yeah, and we had like our home, like a gym outside at home. The only thing was it was the middle of like we went through summer in the Middle East, so it'd be like 50 degrees. But yeah, so you'd have to train either like late at night or early in the morning
Mhm.
because it was so hot. But otherwise, we had to go into the gym once a day to take online workouts. So we got out the house like there's not much I can complain about with that because we didn't have it near as bad as a lot of other people. The only thing I found really hard was like I was lucky because I had just been home to see my family and stuff, but it was like, how long is this going to go on for? And it's just the thought that I couldn't go home almost like, say if something did happen or whatever, I
Mhm.
couldn't just go back to New Zealand. I think that's what I found the hardest from it. But otherwise, like we're pretty lucky. I got to train. We did like online comps, Rogue. I found the games like training. I found it really hard how it just kept getting pushed back. Like, you feel like you're ready now. And then they're like, oh no, we're going to push it back another month. We're going to push it back again. I found that pretty mentally hard. And yeah, just when it came down to the competition, just wasn't quite the same, but we were so lucky that we got to do that. So it was tough, but we had pretty good people around us. Whereas like, if I think now, if I was stuck here, maybe in the UK where, they weren't meant to go outside as there's not sunny, I haven't got a gym at my house, like it would be very different. So yeah, we were pretty lucky there and training went on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you mentioned, goals getting pushed back. And a lot of times we think of goals as like this set, solid thing,
Mm.
and we commit to them and we're so connected to it. And then all of a sudden the date changes. And I think it's easy for people, I mean, anyone to realize it. The date of your goal can always change
Yeah.
as long as the goal remains the same.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And, with CrossFit athletes, that really got exposed. With bodybuilders, that really got exposed. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You're in a 16-week prep going down to like a dangerous level of body fat in like life.
Yeah.
And then you're like, just kidding. I'm going to go back the
Yeah.
other way. And
Yeah. Oh, wait, hold on. We've got to change it all again. Yeah.
back to
Yeah.
lollipops. No.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. Yeah. I think that's something that I could have, done a bit better when I look back on it now. But I think, you learn from that and you're sort of thinking, I now know the system I need to follow rather than like it was almost like, oh, it's unknown. So, I'll change what I'm doing here when you just need to keep following the path. And especially with a coach, you're sort of like, say, look, it's changed. And then rather than try change things yourself, listen to them and just carry on with it.
And trust in the process, right? Like you
Yeah.
have a coach for a
Yeah.
reason. Like if you could do it all on your own, you probably would. But
Yeah.
that's so much to add to your plate. And some people can,
Yeah.
but I'd say most people don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Um, have you stuck with the same coach throughout a lot of time, or have you, how long you been with your current coach now?
Yeah, so I actually met Andy through Elliot and Anthony, so he coached them at Yes. I used to just do whatever, or like a class, or jump in with them, and then so I just jumped on the program with them. And Andy Edwards was coaching, so he owns a gym Dragon CrossFit in Dragon Athletic here in Cardiff. So that was back in 2015, and he coached the team like through the 2 years we did team, and then I've just been with him till now. So what's that now? Like 7 years. So same coach through. Obviously, when I was in the Middle East, he was here in Cardiff, so it was like online, and then Elliot and Ant would sort of help with coaching and like technique stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and they still do.
Do you, as far as training goes, everyone's training looks a little bit different. How much time they spend in the gym, how much of the time they spend on accessory mobility, injury prevention. What does your normal routine look like?
Now or?
Yeah, I mean, like, let's go off season, and then let's kind of change that into how does that change, like hour wise or commitment wise in season?
So in off season, I feel like I'm always doing this strength program. So that's normally like a big, like 2 or 3 hour session, in the middle of the day, and then a bit of like I'll do maybe zone 2 work in the evening or in the morning if I want to mix it up. And then in season again that changes, but I'll try to do a bigger like strength, my bigger main session morning to sort of mid-afternoon, and then again conditioning afternoon, evening. And then as we get close to the games, it's sort of like split up into more like 3 sessions with a bit more intensity.
Yeah. Okay.
So sort of, changes that way. But now like we're in Cardiff, we pick when we train, and then we work like, do any computer work or programming around that. Whereas when we're in the Middle East, we were coaching. So it'd be like train in the morning, maybe coach or PT, train, and then coach through the evening. So that really gave me a lot more structure, but it was quite tiring. Whereas now we've got a bit more time to eat and recover, which is the biggest difference.
And you mentioned PT. Is that personal training or is that physical therapy? And I apologize.
Personal training. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Because I was like, wait, I don't think she's a physical therapist. But
no. Just personal training. That was back when we were in Abu Dhabi.
Do you still coach or do training?
No. So now like we do online work, and then me and Elliot take a like competitors class at Dragon every second week here in Cardiff.
Nice. And so your online stuff, is that like an actual company or is that with the gym?
Yeah, so that's an actual company. It's called QHP Training.
Okay.
Which is Quintessential Health and Performance, if you want to follow it on Instagram. So it's like basically the 4 of us who way back in 2014, 2015, who all sort of worked together. So it's me, Elliot, Anthony, who was a coach at Yes, and then Andy, who's been my coach since back then. So it's the 4 of us. We have a compete program which just launched, and also a classic program which is sort of like a class, but then it's for people who come to classes, sort of know how to do everything, but then they want to do a bit extra. So finding that extra step up from a class. So we have that, and then individual clients from there.
Cool. Okay. And so if somebody wanted to work with you guys, or somebody wanted to join the program after they follow QHP on Instagram, what would that look like? How could someone get started with you guys' programming?
Yeah, so it's all through that. So we have the website linked to the Instagram, and you can go on the website, and then we've got a form that you can fill out if you want to do individual programming, and then we'll get back to you with what we recommend, whether it be individual or whether we recommend one of our ebook programs, or if we recommend one of our generic programs.
Cool. Okay. What is QHP's Instagram handle for our audio listeners?
It is QHP_training. No underscore. QHP training.
I know, I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah. QHP training. Okay. I don't know why I thought there was an underscore. QHP training. Yeah.
It's always hard, right? You're like,
yeah. Like some of these names, I forget what mine is.
How have your personal and professional goals changed within the fitness space over the years?
Yeah, so I feel like they change every year, just about. Obviously, when I moved over to the Middle East, it was like I just wanted to learn more about training, like coaching, training people, just the industry in general. As I grew throughout that, it was like we coached classes, we took seminars. I had a lot of personal training clients, and I really enjoy that because you can make it so much more individual for someone, obviously, and sort of like share not just like training knowledge, but sort of lifestyle knowledge as well. And it's crazy how much like people are taught the wrong things all the time. That just something so simple as just talking to someone for 10, 20, 30 minutes can change that for them. So just sort of growing that way. And then when we moved over here, it was more like the online stuff, which is, again, so much different. You've got your knowledge, but then you have to work out how to get it out to people. So that's another step. And then again, as well, just sort of like trying to take a step back from that. And as an athlete, you have to be a bit more selfish and just focus on your own training. So I think it's just finding the right time of when to, knuckle down and focus on yourself and when you want to better someone else. So I think at the moment, now that we're here pursuing the full-time athlete, that's where my head is. But definitely once that's done, I want to help whoever I can, around us.
Yeah, absolutely. And coaching is really rewarding,
Yeah.
right? To like not only be able to share your knowledge, but you get to see this like click, right? And then click again and click into gear, and you're like,
Yeah.
and you're like, yes, I love it. Go.
And just seeing someone sort of like, especially in the Middle East, it went from someone not doing sport ever in their life, and then they come into a CrossFit gym, and then you just can't keep them out. Come into, trying to come to 3 classes a day, and you're kind of like, no, take a step back. One's enough. But yeah, just cool seeing someone like switch to that and sort of change their whole life.
Yeah, and to be able to like lay that groundwork for them in that direction, right? It really goes a long way. It's easy to kind of get in and not have that connection to it or not understand why you're doing what you're doing. I mean, even when you're dropping into a class, right? That type of programming is pretty important so that you can connect to, well, why do I have to snatch this much? Why do I have to not, why do I have to sit at 80% instead of like, just hammering it and throwing it to 110 and then failing over and over again,
Yeah, it's very important that.
What do you feel like is one of, and maybe there isn't anything, but maybe a big regret for you in life, whether that's like personally or in fitness or with your time or?
I'm not sure. Maybe sometimes not listening to my. I think there has to be somewhere in there. I think sometimes not listening to my body, and that's where sort of like injuries have come along. Like what you said with stress, and you start feeling yourself get run down. But then when you're so direct, like I want to do this, then that's when it's thrown back at you, and those injuries come. I think those, because I feel like some of them took me out for like a year or so. But then again, you still learn from it, so maybe not. But that would be one of them. Otherwise, other than that, not too much. Like I've loved that. I've got to meet a lot of people. You learn from all the different people you meet. But yeah, that would probably be it. Be smart, listen to myself, and know myself. Like I said about the training as well, like knowing that I need that balance or that enjoyment as well.
Yeah, and that personal work, right? You can go in the gym and hammer the weights all day long, but kind of playing back into that mental kind of thing we talked about with connecting the brain and the body. There's got to be that self-work. There's got to be that emotional, mental, and that can be a lot of what holds you back from that physical potential.
Yeah, and also not doing like what you think it should be. Sort of, this person does this and they're the best, so I should do it like that. That might not work for you. So I think it's really understanding yourself as well and taking a step back and actually deciding what makes you happy, and if you're actually enjoying what you're doing, really helps you understand. It will help you get the best out of you, not the best out of someone else. You trying to be someone else.
I like that. I like that a lot. And listening to yourself, like if you find more joy and happiness and fulfillment in something, but you feel like, your identity is in something else, or you feel so connected to something else, but it really like makes you unhappy. It's okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You pivot into something else and pivot there.
Yeah.
It's not like you're locked down, right?
Yeah, definitely. Easier said than done, but I think if you follow their heart, then they'll get there.
Yeah. So what would 31-year-old Jamie tell 8-year-old Jamie about her life or about who she is?
I don't know. I think sometimes I've got to think back to 8-year-old Jamie and be more like that, because when you're that age, you just sort of, do you say 8 or 18?
What? Let's go with 8.
8, yeah. You think when I
want to know 18-year-old Jamie. No, I'm just kidding.
No, probably not. When you think back to sort of like what you were like at that age, you always did what was best for you, but it was just so much more natural, natural. You just do you, and I think sometimes you got to think back to your 8-year-old self and think, what would they want someone older to be, to look up to? So sometimes flipping it that way is good. But yeah, I think I'd go back and just say, just keep trying to be who you are, and the right people will come around you and learn from them.
Yeah. Keep eating
Yeah.
the lollies, right?
Yeah, keep it. Yeah. I didn't need to be told that. Maybe slow down. That's why I got the dentist.
Oh boy. Drink some water. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, that'll work.
So you talk about injuries a lot. It
Mhm.
seemed pretty familiar to you as an athlete. What have been some of the biggest ones? What have been some of the biggest setbacks, and how have
Yeah,
you faced them?
so right when I started CrossFit, within maybe like 3-4 months, I snapped my Achilles. So that was the first one, yeah. And that was what, like a
Oh,
year or so out. Probably still causing me issues now, no, but it was
yeah.
one of those things, it's like, oh, I love CrossFit. I'm gonna go on the gym, did the hero workout Witten, and obviously snapped my Achilles doing a box jump. So that, and to be fair, that was like what hit me the worst, because it was like, first really bad injury. I was young. I was working in a gym. I was studying like PE at uni. So everything I couldn't do basically. So that was quite stressful. And then it got like, I learned a lot from that. Like when I started, I struggled more with muscle ups with all my gymnastics, but I couldn't do anything else for a year because I was in a boot. All of a sudden my gymnastics got better. So there's always like a silver lining and out of every injury. So
Yeah.
I went from, being able to do one muscle up to like 9 or 10. So I was like, I can't complain about that.
Later, don't ask me to do anything else.
Yeah, exactly. Don't ask me to squat because it's an empty bum. But so that was when I was younger, and I think that I found that one pretty hard. And then in 2017, at the end of 2017, after my first time at Games individual at the Games, I subluxed my shoulder and had surgery on my shoulder. And then last year, same shoulder, I dislocated it twice and had surgery again on it.
Yeah.
So I think that, the hardest surgery was the most recent shoulder one, just like pain wise, and then coming back rehab wise. It was a long year, but now it's feeling better.
Yeah. You feel like you've had to spend a lot of time with like accessory work and recovery and mobility more so than training altogether?
No, it hasn't been that much. So each one, it's sort of like my first shoulder surgery, I was back in I think I had surgery in November, and then I competed obviously in the Open in February. So that was only like 4 months, but then this year one took a bit longer this year. So it was probably about a year. Well, it's only just over a year ago that I had it. So it was sort of like this whole last year, I felt like I was chasing a little bit, and now it's just sort of like building that confidence back up again.
Yeah. Yeah, and confidence and fear really, I assume, play into things, especially even at your level and injuries. I mean, you snapped your Achilles doing a box jump. Like, how do you do box jumps again, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, you figured it out, but what were some of the keys to overcoming that fear for you?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things because, that was a hard one. The box jumps, still don't love them. It's the ones that are like freak accidents. So my shoulder the second time a little bit was a freak accident because I was doing like a dumbbell pullover and it literally dislocated. So, and it was a light dumbbell. Yeah. So like I snatch, it was a 7 kilo dumbbell or something. So, you snatch more than that every day, like every week. It's just more when it's like a freak accident, you're kind of like, well, how do I stop that again? So I think you've just sort of got to trust your body and trust the work you do around it. And again, trust listening to your body. So obviously that day I was maybe just knackered. I was too tired. I didn't need to be doing that. I lost focus, and maybe it was something that was waiting to happen. Who knows? But I think it's just if you trust the process and, follow your nutrition right, your recovery, follow what's on your program. If you follow those steps, if something happens, it happens. But if it doesn't, like it shouldn't happen. So I think there's always that risk out there, but I think you've just got to trust your body. And if you follow the right path, it won't happen.
Right? And like focus on the right things, right? Kind of like that grass is greener. Like if you're looking at somebody else's grass and not really staying in your lane, and those are
100%.
I think you get what I mean.
Yeah. Do what you can do. Yeah.
Yeah, and just stay focused, and stay headstrong and really lean into the people who are around you, whether it's your
Mm.
coach, your partner, or like your community, and just stay focused,
Yeah,
right?
100%, yeah. Definitely to those around you, I think that's a really good one.
Yeah, totally. Do you train with anyone? I mean, do you work out by yourself or do you
No, I train with Elliot. So we get to
Okay.
spend so much time together.
Well, good. Well, if it
Yeah.
works, it works, right?
Yeah, yeah, I love it, it's
I don't know
fun.
if he
We get
loves
to
it,
do
but
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah. He might get sick of me, but yeah, I love it. We get to every day's fun. We have a few fights here and there, but more often than not, it's fun.
right? Resolving conflict and working through
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
What's your favorite story of you and Elliot?
Favorite story? Goodness.
Oh, we don't have to go with number 1, but
We have an early on one. Lots of people know this one just because when obviously we competed on the same games team
Mhm.
and we were doing was it the team Murph? When you had to carry someone on a stretcher, you do all the stuff, and then you had to do everything with a worm. Yeah, and obviously that was when it was the 6-person worm, so you can't really hear a thing.
Yeah.
And all I remember is we're on the worm, and it was like right near the end, and he walks out like we're all still holding it, and he was in the front, and he walks out the front, and the whole thing comes down, takes me out on the floor. And here apparently, I only remember it a little bit. So here I'm picking up, throwing grass at him, yelling. I'm like, it's all in the moment. But that was one of the early on ones. I'm sure there's been plenty since then.
Yeah, just do some CrossFit team workouts with your partner. You'll figure
Yeah,
out yours.
yeah. Then you see it all. Yeah.
Oh man. And you're not too tall. I mean, right? How tall are you?
I am 163 centimeters,
Okay.
whatever that is. 5'2", maybe 5'3".
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right in there.
Yeah. So yeah, no, not tall.
5'2", throwing grass at you.
Yeah. Just look like this little psycho thing.
I love you. I swear.
Yeah. Just not right now.
If you could compare yourself with an animal, what would it be and why?
I know a lot of people would say sloth,
Okay.
and there's probably 50% of the time either a sloth or a cat. Some sort of cat. Yeah. I like to rest, but if I need to go, I can go.
Yeah. And you wanna be pet, like, on your own terms,
Yeah.
Don't touch me.
Exactly.
I'm
I know when to be annoying as well.
Right? Pay attention to me. Pay attention to me.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, this girl's a cat.
I like it. Do you have a cat? Do you have any animals?
No, we did when we were in Abu Dhabi, but
Yeah.
when we moved, we gave him to another family.
I think I remember that. Didn't you, wasn't it a cat?
It was we actually had 2 of them, yeah, and they were sort of like they were left on the side of the road in a rubbish bin, in a, like, bin bag.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we got them when they were really young, and they were horrible at the start.
Oh.
They were a nightmare, but, then one got
Did
sick.
they throw grass at you?
What's that?
Did they throw some grass at you?
Yeah. No, I was gonna do that to them as well. Did some horrible things, but that's okay. No, they were cute. But yeah, so I do miss having animals. I think one day when we're back in New Zealand, we'll have cats and dogs and everything in between.
Farm.
Yeah,
goats,
yeah.
Sheep.
Yeah, why not?
So the goal for you, I mean, do you have any upcoming things? Are you doing Wadapalooza team qualifier? Did you do individual? Are you doing something else?
I did the Dubai qualifiers, so I think that will get like the leaderboards up, but that needs to get confirmed at the end of this week. So if that's fine, then I will compete in Dubai. Possibly doing team I want to do team in Wadapalooza with a couple other girls, but that's not known yet. And that's all at the moment.
Yeah. And then we have season 2023. What are some of your goals either now or headed into the season, or is that something that you align a little bit closer, as you start cruising through that?
I think so at the moment the focus is Dubai and the team stuff in Wadapalooza. And then from there, just sort of get the season right. Like last year I just felt like I was chasing the whole time. Like I'd get to the open and there'd be movements in there that I was doing for the first time because of my shoulder surgery. Like it was the first time I did bar muscle ups in a workout in the first part of the open. And then the quarterfinals come out, and it's like the first time I've snatched that weight in a workout. So it was just sort of like I felt like I was chasing the whole time. So this year, I just want to make sure that I'm ready at each point of the season to be able to give it my all and not have to think about, I have to worry about my body doing this or that. I can just go for it. So that's the focus for next year, and enjoy it as well. I think this year I found it really stressful traveling back to Australia, because I think it was the first time I'd done it in, I don't know, 2.5 years. So there's a few things I'd change there as well. And I think it's just, I learned a lot about myself last year, and now I'm going to alter a few things to hopefully perform better for the year coming.
Yeah, I love that. So everyone, make sure that you're following Jamie on Instagram. Her handle is JGREENWOD.
There's an E in there as well, I think. Is it?
Yeah. So J Green, right? Yeah. So formally, that's your maiden name, right?
Yeah.
J Green Wad. That's on Instagram. Make sure, right? That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. So make sure that you're following her, send her a DM, follow along here on YouTube for the podcast, the Swole Friends podcast. Jamie, it was amazing talking with you. You're an incredible athlete. You're an incredible woman. You are pretty much the epitome of resilience. And really, I think when people look at you, they see just kind of this model of what CrossFit is, right? They see hard work, they see dedication, they see your bright smile light up any room, and really are like able to look at you and say, what do I do to gotta be like her, right? And you hear, when you talk about things, you say, find your groove, find your lane, stay in it, focus on it, find what works for you. Don't copy someone else. You're not them, right?
Yeah.
Be your individual self. And I think that's one of the best things you bring to the community is you are individually you, right? Unapologetically you.
Yeah.
And
I hope so.
Yeah. You do. Absolutely. I know I'm not the only person out there that thinks that. And so it's been amazing to chat with you. I appreciate you coming on the podcast.
No, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. And good luck in the season. Hop in that Wadapalooza qualifier.
Yeah.
And for anyone out there listening, make sure that you subscribe on Spotify. We are also on Apple Podcasts. You can catch the lives every Thursday with amazing athletes just like Jamie, one-on-one conversations on YouTube and Facebook. Follow Swolverine on Instagram, and we will catch you guys next time. Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you.